You don't need to use champions or evolutions to win in Clash Royale. In this video, I will share the top 10 most underrated cards, their strengths, weaknesses, and best decks. But I will not waste your time. Number 10 is the Goblin Giant. This card is a great tank that can deal a lot of damage if your opponent doesn't notice it in time. Plus, it's also an excellent counter to swarm troops like the Skeleton Army or the Goblin Gang. Because let's be honest, you won't always have a spell available in your deck, so this will definitely help in most cases. Not to mention, this card is also good for diverting because it only goes straight to the tower and has tons of health, which can make your defense 10 times better. Number 9 is the Cannon card. This card is a great option for defense and offense that can deal with any ground card quickly and effectively. And don't worry too much about the air troops, because when the card of the Cannon card is broken, it turns into an actual cannon, but it is good for getting into your opponent's head, because the truth is that nobody likes to play against this card. Your opponent knows that if it locks onto their tower, they are probably going to lose the game. Number 8 is the Heal Spirit. At some point, every pro player was using the Heal Spirit in their decks, because it's actually a really good support card. For your favorite decks like Mega Knight Cycle, 2.6 Hog Cycle, or Logbait, the Heal Spirit can be used to cycle to your other cards faster. But of course, other spirits can do that too. So what's so good about this one? Well, the Heal Spirit can deal some damage, and it even heals your troops a little bit, allowing you to get an extra hit on your opponent's tower, or stopping the opponent from getting an extra hit on your tower, which is definitely worth it. Number 7 is the Royal Hogs. Let's say your opponent doesn't have the fireball, then they can lose pretty easily if you place the Royal Hogs right at the bridge. But even if your opponent has the fireball, they will have trouble against your Royal Hogs fireball baits. There are really many good decks like these to use with this card. This is because the Royal Hogs is a very good card to bait your opponent's spells. Just make sure not to waste the card for no reason, like placing it at the bridge while your opponent is about to place a level 16 Mega Knight. But if they only have an Inferno Tower, then I would definitely place them right at the bridge. Number 6 is the Magic Archer. This card can deal damage to more than one troop with just one arrow, but the placement is really important because it cannot attack from all sides at once. However, it is good for taking out swarms of troops from a medium or long distance. So don't worry about the Goblin Gang or Skeleton Army ever again after you have this card in your deck. If that doesn't already sound really good, the Magic Archer can also hit multiple troops and still hit the tower as well. Now we just have 5 underrated cards left, but in future videos I will be sharing even more underrated cards and their best decks, so make sure to subscribe to see more. Number 5 is the Flying Machine. This card does so much damage, and I'm actually surprised that it's not used more often. Not to mention that the Flying Machine is the best troop for destroying your opponent's buildings. Like, you'll never have to worry about the 2.6 Hog Cycle, because the cannon is already gone before the match starts. The Flying Machine is just that good, and plus it's in the air. Most decks have bad air defense, which is why your favorite deck, the Lumberloon, works so well. So you won't have to worry too much about them being able to stop it. But it's better placed in the back anyway if you don't want to take any chances. Number 4 is the Skeleton Barrel. This card used to be in every trolling deck because it did so much damage in a little amount of time. And it's funny, but it still does a lot of damage today and can bring out your opponent's spells. It's similar to the Graveyard actually, but the difference is that the Skeleton Barrel is basically the balloon and a mini version of the Skeleton Army. We all know that the balloon is really good, and it's even better if your opponent doesn't know how to deal with it, so you should definitely give it a try. Number 3 is the Dark Prince. Now this is a very popular card, but it never gets used to its full potential. First, it's a great tank that can deal area damage, making it great for taking out swarms of troops. Like, really good actually. You definitely won't have to worry about the Skeleton Army. So yeah, and it's also good for charging into enemy troops and buildings and dealing damage to multiple things very quickly. Number 2 is the Zappies. You didn't know this was going to be on the list because you probably forgot about this card. It's really good for stopping Sparky and Electro Dragon, but can also work really well against anything if played right. They're also really good for making your opponent not want to play anymore because you just do this. That's why you should try this card for sure, but it's definitely not as good as the next card. Number 1 is the Mega Knight. This card needs a lot of skill to play. Okay, that was a joke. Number 1 is actually the Giant Skeleton. The name of this card is very misleading because it's not really a giant at all, but it does a lot of damage and it's really strong. So it's one of the best cards for taking out enemy troops and buildings, but not so good for dealing with swarm troops, which is its only problem. Of course, it also has the bomb that can almost destroy your opponent's towers in a couple hits. And with the clone spell, your opponent might just switch to Clash of Clans after that. If you're interested, check out this video next.